Good evening. I'd like to call this special meeting on August 19th to order. First up would be action items. Are there any public comments on any action item? Seeing none, we'll move on to action item B, which is minutes of the August 12th meeting. We have a chance to review those. And we'll entertain motions.
I'll second.
First, second, all those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone not approve? Okay. Next item on the agenda is for the board to hold a project and preliminary hearing on the proposed project. If you are interested in speaking at the hearing, please make sure you have signed the signed-in sheet at the back of the room, which should include your name and address. After a presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make comments about the project. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and that the topic be limited to the proposed project under consideration. The notice of this preliminary determination hearing was published as legally required. The first preliminary determination hearing was held on August 12th, 2024. At this time, I'll ask Roger Young, school attorney, to explain the purpose of this hearing.
Thank you. Pursuant to Indiana Code Section 20-26-7-37, before a school corporation may spend more than $1 million to build, repair, or alter a school building that will be financed by a lease or by bonds, it must hold a public hearing at which explanations of the potential value of the project, the school corporation, and community are given. Similarly, pursuant to Indiana Code Section 6-1.1-20-3.1, a school corporation must hold 2 public hearings and adopt a resolution to preliminarily determine to issue bonds or enter into a lease for a project which has a total project cost in excess of $1 million. In excess of a non-controlled project. Okay. Or if the school corporation has a debt service fund tax rate above a certain amount. These public hearings and the adoption of resolutions are the very beginning of the legal process. These resolutions establish maximum financing terms for the proposed project. We certainly all hope that the cost of the project is less. We can find that out once bids are received.
We will now hear from Benji Betts, the Executive Director of Facilities, about the process of determining and communicating the project to the community and the need for the project. Provide description of the list of the projects and how they address needs and the expected timing of construction and renovation.
All right, thank you guys. We'll go through the projects that we have listed for this bond and have some slides to show those, the costs, and get that at the end, and we'll take any questions if you have any. The first one, talking about the HVAC and mechanical systems that we are looking to upgrade or replace. Again, examples of this would be boilers needed in buildings, different pumps, and building controls to take care of the running of those systems. The main locations for these projects would take place at the intermediate school, middle school, and the high school. And the preliminary estimates for these repairs and replacements would total approximately $3.25 million. The building envelope and hardscape, this would include items such as roofing, masonry, windows, doors, pavement, and drainage at our campuses. The main locations for this would be Creekside, the high school, the middle school, the intermediate school, and Webb Elementary. Preliminary estimates for these, the main projects in this category for repairs and replacements would be approximately $9.55 million. Technology upgrades, examples of this would be our different PA systems. We have done that in a few buildings, but we do have other buildings that still need some of those upgrades. Access controls, technology infrastructure upgrades, staff technology, bus cameras, and tablets. All of our campuses, our schools would need some of these, and the preliminary estimates for the highest priority in this area would be $1.6 million. Playground improvements, looking at replacing and updating our existing playgrounds to make them accessible for all children. Also our work with the League of Miracles on a site for them at the intermediate school. Again, location for this would be Creekside and CVIS. And the preliminary estimates for these projects would be $1.5 million. Bus replacement, part of this looking at doing diesel, propane, and electric buses, or some combination of those to replace our aging fleet. We are also looking at adding a special needs bus into activity buses. This obviously would take place of transportation and would serve all of our schools. Our preliminary estimate on this would be $3 million. If funding allows, examples for facility improvements would include flooring, ceilings, and interior wall finishes, painting, and furniture. Locations for this would be all of our schools have smaller projects in this category. The estimate for this would be right around $599,000. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now hear from Megan Gibson from Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors LLC, our municipal advisor, about how the proposed project will be financed, as well as information about the effect on the typical property taxpayer.
Hang on, we have the presentation, the one that was just sent was not the correct one. That was the one that we did in July.
I thought so. I was like, we kept going.
Yeah, this is the incorrect one.
It should be the pre-K.
Preschool building.
I don't mind telling you about that one either.
We appreciate the information.
It's the one we
Yeah.
used last time.
I guess it won't help if I have a hard copy.
No, well, we have it.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, I'll be back here now to tell you about the pre-K center bond and tell you about the proposed project there. We have a couple. Done a little bit differently, but the pre-K center, talking more about the scope of work with this project, would include the Earlywood building tear down, design, rezoning, planning, and building of a new pre-K early learning center. Looking at 250 to 300 student capacity. It would include both developmental and community pre-K in this new building. This would also allow us to move the current pre-K setup that we have for our buildings being used to a centralized location at that Earlywood site. Preliminary estimates for this project would be $25 million for this pre-K center. Performing Arts Center upgrades. Looking at examples of the work here would be lighting upgrades and replacements, sound system upgrades or replacements, the curtains in the PAC center there, seating replacements, choir and band storage as well. The location for this project would be at Franklin Community High School, and the preliminary estimates for this one would be $4 million. Athletic facility upgrades. Example for this would be turf fields for baseball, softball, and soccer. Also replacing the pool liner at the high school, pickleball courts possibly at the middle school, locker room sitting facility for baseball and softball as well. Locations for this, again, would be the high school and the middle school campuses, and the preliminary estimates for this one would be $5 million. Building improvements, looking at doing LED lighting upgrades and replacements, paint, carpet, and furniture. This would encompass all buildings for those upgrades if possible. The estimates for this would be to replace and repair would be $5 million on this project. I've been working with the FFA alumni and the agriculture department for the high school on a new building for them. Scope of work for this would be, again, working with the ag department at the high school to design, plan, and build a new agriculture building for Franklin Community Schools. And the preliminary estimates for this project would be $1 million from Franklin Community Schools towards the project. Technology upgrades. Examples for this would be IT network core switches, LAN M1, and IT network storage for servers. Locations would be all schools would have small projects in this category for technology upgrades, and the preliminary estimates for this is $425,000. And the bond info for this, the plan is to complete as many of these projects as possible once bids are received for the work to be done and outlined in this bond. Any questions on that one? Thank you very much.
Well, deja vu here. We will now hear from Megan Gibson from Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors LLC, our municipal advisor, about how the proposed project will be financed, as well as information about the effect on the typical property taxpayer.
Good evening. So I'm basically just planning to go through the same information as last week for how the proposed project could be financed with the bond issue next year in 2025. And if you have any questions as I go through this, just let me know. So if we want to start on slide 2, we have the school corporation's outstanding debt. So here we're showing the annual payments for each bond issue, as well as the call date for when you could refund those on a tax exempt basis. And then slide 3, this has the same information, just in a graph. So you can see on this slide, over the next few years, the school corporation will have some step downs in annual payments. So you have one coming up next year in 2025, and then you have that larger step down coming up in 2027. Then if we want to go to slide 4, so here we're showing a summary of the proposed bonds that would finance the preschool center project that you're currently considering. So the maximum borrowing amount would be $40 million, and then accounting for some allowances for estimated cost of issuance associated with the bond issue, as well as for the possibility that some capitalized interest expense may be needed for a portion of the first interest payment on the bonds. Taking all of that into account, we're showing you would have about $38,050,000 of project proceeds. We've assumed the bonds would be issued in May of 2025 and have a repayment term of about 20 years. On the estimated interest costs, we're showing there $27.1 million and the estimated annual payment of $3,539,000. We've assumed a 5.5% interest rate for both of those, which is higher than where rates currently are. So there is some cushion built into both of those numbers based on where we are today. But just to give you some additional flexibility at this point, as far as how we structure the bonds next year, we are setting the maximum lease rental payment at around $10.3 million. We have it noted there in footnote 2, just to give you some additional flexibility. So if you want to go ahead and go to slide 5, this just kind of pulls everything together. So the dark green bars represent the school corporation's existing debt payments, and then the light blue bars represent estimated payments for the proposed bonds the school corporation is planning to issue later this year for that maintenance and improvement project. And then the gray bars represent the estimated payments for the proposed bonds for this preschool center project that is currently being considered. Those would, again, just be issued in 2025, and then you would have payments starting there in 2026. And then you can also see here what we're currently projecting out for your debt service tax rate. And so based on our assumptions, we are able to structure all of this in a way we're estimating would not increase your debt service tax rate above your 2024 rate. And then also just by setting that maximum annual lease rental payment higher than the payments we're showing here, it just gives us flexibility where we could adjust the structure or even look at shortening the repayment term if you wanted to do that prior to the bond sale. And then, as you can also see in 2027, we're still projecting you would have a drop down in rate and payment that year still. You may notice payments do kind of jump up in 2026. To try and manage the debt service tax rate that year around that 79 cents, we are estimating you would need to utilize some debt service balance as well as some capitalized interest expense, like I mentioned before, for a portion of that interest payment. But after the bonds this year are sold and we know kind of what difference will be that we're showing right now in that light blue. And as we get closer to the bond sale next year, we can revisit this structure and figure out kind of what our options are for that payment. We just want to be conservative at this point and showing that capitalized interest expense may be needed for a portion of that payment to keep your tax rate around that 79 cents. So with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing. And remember, if you would like to speak, please sign in on the sheet, which is located on the front table. As I mentioned earlier, we ask that you state your name and address and limit your comments to the proposed project and financing, keeping comments to 3 minutes and avoid being repetitive if possible. May I have the sign-in sheet now, and I'll be calling names. Seeing none, I'd like to thank you all for participating in the hearing. We appreciate your time and interest in the projects and the future of our community. Please note that this is just the first step in the legal process. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look for efficiencies to conserve tax dollars while meeting our educational needs. Mr. Young, could you please summarize the project resolution?
Yes, the project resolution is required when a school is planning to spend more than $1 million per building. It contains the estimated hard and soft costs for construction and cost of issuance, establishes the total project cost. It also contains the estimated tax impact.
Could I have a motion and a second to adopt the project resolution?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
First, second, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, Mr. Young, could you please summarize the preliminary determination resolution?
Yes, the preliminary determination resolution is required when a school is planning to finance more than a certain amount for a given facility. It contains the total project cost, maximum payment of and lease terms, and other financial terms such as the estimated principal amount and tax impact.
Could I have a motion and second to adopt the preliminary determination resolution?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
First, second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, Mr. Young, could you please summarize the reimbursement resolution?
Yeah, the final resolution, reimbursement resolution, relates to the financing of the construction project. The resolution permits the school corporation to reimburse itself from bond proceeds for any cash which it might spend on the project prior to closing on the bonds. It is required by federal tax law in order to preserve the school corporation's ability to reimburse itself.
All right, could I have a motion and a second to adopt the reimbursement resolution?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. I believe that closes our special hearing today. We'll now open the regular meeting back up, and we have one item to discuss, the resolution authorizing litigation against social media companies.
Over the past several years, been a lot of attention drawn to the impact of social media on school-age children. And tonight, I'm asking the board to consider a resolution that would allow Franklin Community Schools to join a lawsuit dealing with the litigation on social media companies. During this time, we would then be represented obviously by our own attorney, Mr. Young. But the resolution states some of the harm and impact that takes place with not warning students of potential harm. And there are definitely items that we can look to. The number of kids needing mental health assistance, the impact, and also we see uptick in bullying and different things like that. So I'm asking the board to allow us to move forward in this resolution. We would then join a group of about a third of the Indiana schools that have already done this, and then we would partner with a larger lawsuit that's going on nationwide. So at this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I would ask that you would approve our recommendation to join this lawsuit.
Is there any discussion, any questions on the subject? Hearing none, I don't have any, will entertain motions.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We'll adjourn.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.